over the weekend talking with some friends of mine that live in North Carolina, huge Caniac fans, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we gotta learn to pronounce Kotkaniemi, right?" And they just repeatedly Kotkaniemi. They've got the name down. Now they got to get the number down. This just in: new city, new number. Jesperi Kotkaniemi gonna wear 82 when he makes his debut coming up in early October down in Raleigh. Here is Jesperi Kotkaniemi talking recently on his time spent in Montreal.
Really excited when I saw the offer sheet first time. Obviously, I start to think immediately how it would be over there, and had a good talks with my with the Tom and the Carolina. So I was just really excited. It's hard to say. I think I had my role last 3 years, but you can say I felt the confidence from the first second from Carolina. So like I said, that feels good, and just feels real good when someone's trusting you. I think could have been better. But like I said, we played in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, so can't really blame anything. I think at the end it was a pretty good run, like I said.
All right, those are his comments about his former team and talking about the excitement coming up with his new team. You surprised when he said it could have been better about his time in Montreal? This is a very high pick, and it just didn't quite seem to work out there.
Yeah, and looking back over a situation like this, I mean, I think the club, the player can all share some responsibility. It was just kind of a, not an ideal fit from the outset. And, I think really Kotkaniemi's trajectory was on the rise. I think you see him developing, as time goes on, but not at the rate that I think everybody anticipated, given what he accomplished at the amateur level and, kind of his draft position. So I think a different set of circumstances for Kotkaniemi going forward. We're fond of saying, JMO, the bigger ones take longer to develop. And in and around 6'3", this is still a big gangly kid trying to get comfortable with that body. Put in a situation like Carolina, who with some of their young prospects have proven, they can develop great, talented young players. Perhaps a better fit, a bit of a reset for Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, he mentioned the run that Montreal went on and maybe surprised everybody in the hockey world, going all the way to the Stanley Cup final. But as kind of the playoffs went along, you kind of saw the writing on the wall, given the fact that this guy was a healthy scratch for a couple of games here. Look at the numbers in the playoff splits here with the Habs. I mean, at times he was asked to play the #1 center spot in that market.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't go well, I mean, people talk about it, right?
Yeah, and too, there's a couple of pieces to really look at as you kind of close the book on the Kotkaniemi years in Montreal. Remember, this is a young player struggling to develop at the NHL level, but develop at his position in the context of a team who is starved just in terms of the strength down the middle. So you're probably exposing him to more early on than you would in an ideal situation, and asking more from him than is realistic given the length of his career to this point.
I think we got spoiled those back-to-back years when we had Austin Matthews and we had Connor McDavid. And generational talent that, high-end picks, obviously first overall, they come in, they make an instant impact. That's not the way the NHL works for these young players. It's about development, isn't it?
It really is. And for every Matthews or McDavid that jumps into an NHL roster and really starts rattling off a point per game kind of a clip, they make it look that easy. For every player like that, there's a dozen players like Kotkaniemi who have struggled, take additional time to kind of make an impact within their respective roster, or fail to make an NHL roster at all long term. So it's it's not an exact recipe for each and every player. Everybody kind of meanders and finds their own path.
All right, so Kotkaniemi excited about his new digs down in Carolina. Meanwhile, Marc Bergevin, he had a difficult decision to make, and he made maybe a tough one, taking the picks in trading away the player, or losing the player, I should say. You can see the excitement there. Maybe the same reaction when they get a guy like Christian Dvorak, right? With some term on his deal, a younger player who has a lot of upside. What do you make of Montreal and where we saw them last in the Stanley Cup final and where they might be the upcoming season?
Yeah, I think Dvorak helps them a lot. I think that gives them a little strength down the middle, more strength down the middle, without question. I think that's a situation. You look at the numbers that Kotkaniemi was going to demand in the event that Montreal matches that offer sheet. And remember, going forward, his qualifying offer next year, Kotkaniemi's, triggers off that $6 million mark set this year in the offer sheet from Carolina. So that's a big number. Throws your salary structure out of whack. And just comparing those two assets, setting aside the contract, Dvorak as a Montreal Canadian or Kotkaniemi, you're probably getting more of an impact, more contribution from a Dvorak going forward, at least in the near term. And again, you make the point, JMO, Dvorak's got another 4 years left on his current deal. So you like the certainty from a financial perspective and a playing perspective. Didn't surprise me that Bergevin takes a pass on Kotkaniemi.